Hello, Nickelodeon fans, and welcome to This Week in Nickelodeon History, where we are covering all of the Nickelodeon shows that either premiered or finished up between the times of October 31st and November 6th. That was a guess, and I was totally right. We're actually going to be going over a lot of shows that ended and started just last year in 2020, and what a year it was to see what, television studios were able to do amongst the times. I mean, you had to get really creative with putting out, fresh and original shows, unless, you had a show like South Park, which can be done, remotely at home. But live action shows, it's a lot tougher to do. I thought that what Danger Force did was pretty cool. And that kind of goes into some of the stuff we're going to be covering today, that kind of format. But we're starting with something that ended just 1 year ago on November 1st, 2020. Butterbean's Cafe, a Nick Jr. show from Johnny Belt and Robert Skull, the creators of both Bubble Guppies and Whoopi's Litterberg, which I thought was a show about Whoopi Goldberg, and it actually is. I thought I was wrong at first. Like, there's no way. That has to do with Whoopi Goldberg. And Whoopi Goldberg is the mayor of this town. Yeah, think about that. That's pretty cool. So, but enough about Whoopi's Litterberg. We'll get to that at some point. But yeah, Butterbean's Cafe. It ran for 2 seasons of 60 episodes. 1 year ago as well, on October 31st, 2020, we saw the final episode of Group Chat. It was a Nickelodeon talk show that was pretty much just having you watch a conversation play out online. You can name a bunch of different services in which you can live chat with your friends, but there was a lot of this going down throughout the year with people, quarantining, not able to leave their homes. What else can you do? You gotta conversate with people. I watched WrestleMania with my usual group of friends that get together for that event. We were obviously not able to get together at that time, and we got in a group chat with everyone's, cameras on and watched the event together. Hey, you all probably have a story out there of something you did last year of that sort, doing something online with someone, doing a watch along, just listening to music, something that felt normal, and tried to ignore the fact that you were not in the same room with one another. So Group Chat here is a TV show that just did that. Hey, we gotta put new stuff on television. We can't get a live studio audience. We can't film anything. We have people in home. Hey, we got to be creative. And we saw a few of these shows do this last year. The one that comes to mind, Parks and Recreation, coming back with their special and everything taking place from everyone's home. It was super creative concept, and you know what? We might as well run with it. This show starred Annie LeBlanc, Jaden Bartels, and Brent Rivera. It ran for 2 seasons of 15 episodes. It just ran pretty much throughout the 2020 year. And hey, once things can kind of calm down, you can go back to making, shows with one another in the same room. I don't think there was as much of a need for this concept, but if something ever happens again, it's something that Nickelodeon can easily pick up upon. 2 years ago, on November 1st, 2019, America's Most Musical Family premiered on Nickelodeon. The show, presented by Nick Lachey, ran for 1 season of 13 episodes and set out to find America's Most Musical Family. I don't really know. Is it just like show up with your whole family, and as long as you can sing, you get pushed through? Or no, it seems like I'm looking through the episodes here, and it seems like some of the families just go by their last name, but then the other, I see other names of just, they came to the event with a name in mind. Juan Moore. That's in the first episode. Yeah, so it looks like they just had a bunch of families get together, and I'm guessing it was a musical dance competition. Who won? Who won this? I got to give them credit here. Let's see. Was it not a competition? The program features 30 talented families competing for a record contract with Republic Records and a $250,000 cash prize. Oh, the Melezwe brothers, Seth, Zach, and Mark, were the winners overall of the competition. I looked them up. Absolutely adorable and talented brothers there. Congratulations, guys, on the win. Doesn't look like America's most musical. I mean, once you do it once, it's like American Idol. I guess I could say, how many times can you do it before it's outrun its course? But that, for me, that hits like season 4. How many American Idols could there possibly? I guess every generation, but then I wouldn't do it every year. I would do like American Idol like every 5 years, every 10 years. Come back, whole new crop, whole new generation. Get in there. That's how I would do it. But I'm not running a network, and the amount of money that American Idol brings in, it makes too much sense. But yeah, America's Most Musical Family. I think that's. I didn't get to see any of the episodes. I don't have Nickelodeon Live at where I currently am. I will down the road, but I haven't had it for the last like 4 or 5 years. So any of the content I've watched, I have to find on my own. So I completely would have missed this, but I kind of like these little competitions. I'm very interested in seeing what the talents they have, even if it's the dumbest talent to you, you would have to say that. No one else can tell you your talent is dumb. But if you think it's dumb, if it's a talent, regardless on what you think of it, that's cool. You should show it off. So it's pretty cool that they got all these families together. The judges, I should say, for this competition were Ciara, David Dobrik, and Debbie Gibson. Now, Ciara is a singer, a songwriter, dancer, model, actress. Boom. She's got it all right there. She could be a good judge. Debbie Gibson is a singer, songwriter, pianist, record producer, and actress. Once again, incredible resume. Both of them. I can reasonably understand their judging aspects of where they're coming from. They understand the musical part. They understand the dancing aspect. David Dobrik, why would you, if you are a musical family, even if you are the bottom ranked of the families that were invited to this competition or got through, you should not accept any judgment from David Dobrik other than coming from the eyes of somebody who's like, I'm like in the audience. This is the audience perspective right here. The non-singer songwriter. I don't understand. I don't know. It would just be, that's why I can't go on shows like that, because if he said anything negative about my family, I'd say, well, sir, what talents do you bring to the table? I don't know. It depends on the competition. Like, nothing against David Dobrik and what he does and the work he's put into his career, but it's not a YouTube vlogger judging competition. It's a singing competition. Anyway, moving on to another show. I was going to say another reality show, but it's a game show. Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Finished its run 2 years ago on November 3rd, 2019. It was the Nickelodeon Revival, the 4th iteration of Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? The show had 4 iterations. The first 3, I think, are all hosted by Jeff Foxworthy. I believe so. So the original primetime series ran from 2007 to 2009. The syndicated version of it ran from 2009 to 2011. They revived it in primetime in 2015, and then the Nickelodeon version comes back in 2019, this time hosted by John Cena, because if you're going to put it on Nickelodeon, kids are going to be more prone to tune into a game show hosted by John Cena, or in some cases hosted by no one, rather than no offense to him, Jeff Foxworthy. Love Jeff Foxworthy. He could be a funny guy. Definitely not the not gonna bring in the younger crowd. Although there's nothing saying if kids were watching Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader and it's other iterations on syndication, on network television. I used to love watching game shows with my family and always loved the hosts of those shows. But, for Nickelodeon, I understand why they would want to go with a different host that might be an attraction, for kids to watch. It only ran for, I think, one season on Nickelodeon. Had its run, started in June of that year, 2019, landing all the way in November. 4 years ago, on November 1st, 2017, Mutton Stuff finished its run on Nick Jr., created by Sid and Marty Krofft and Bradley Zweig. The show Mutton Stuff must have been a puppet show because H&R Pufnstuf, I guess, made an appearance on this show. For those who are not familiar with the works of Sid and Marty Krofft, definitely take some time out of your day. If you enjoy just a fever dream of children's entertainment, they're behind some works such as H&R Pufnstuf, Land of the Lost, which I have a fond spot for. Also, I think Lidsville. That's on the top of my head that I can remember. But they are behind a ton of different TV series. Bunch of spin-offs from those TV series, a bunch of like little small works they've done, and I must have just zoned out on this. I gotta look up what H&R Pufnstuf looked like in this show. H&R. I only know of H&R Pufnstuf because of his just like long running standing as a TV icon. I've never watched an entire episode of H&R Pufnstuf. It's like a weird, I guess it's one of those things that you just had to be there at the time. I have full respect for it because of my love of Land of the Lost. He kind of gets a pass. Oh, he's the mayor. Okay, so this kind of show looks to be right up the alley of Sid and Marty Krofft, a live action show with people in character costumes. And it looks like, I'm going to guess, Mutt as a talking character. Wow, all right, it's an impressive suit, and it's got impressive like facial animation in the eyes and whatnot. And I guess, yeah, there he is, Mayor Pufnstuf. That's incredible. And it's the same it's like the same suit from the original show. It's very that's for the parents in the room who are like, "Oh my God, I remember that." Well, maybe at this point, the grandparents in the room. Who's making H.R. Pufnstuf references for the parents? For the parents in the room, you're referencing Rugrats, Doug, Ren and Stimpy. That's the parents in the room these days. Maybe some older parents were into Pufnstuf if their parents showed them. I was into Land of the Lost, and when the internet was around, that's when I started really diving into the works of Sid and Marty Krofft. Because when you're a young kid in the internet, it's the Wild West out there. There was no direction. You would just land places. 10 years ago, on November 4th, 2011, Ni Hao Kai-Lan finished its run on Nickelodeon. Created by Karen Chow, the show ran for 2 seasons of 40 episodes. I remember that this was a big deal because it was, if I remember, one of the first children's shows to really focus on Chinese, on Mandarin Chinese, and would teach children Mandarin Chinese in the way that Dora the Explorer was teaching kids Spanish. So kids were probably picking up a few phrases here and there, and I think it's beneficial to know at least a few words in every language, just so that you can have the most basic interactions with everybody around the world. It's very easy information, just like hi and bye, remembering that. I know Ni Hao is hello, and Kai-Lan is the Chinese name Chow was given at birth, which was later angelicized to Karen. So she was given Kai-Lan, but then I've never heard that angelicized. It almost sounds like Angelica, but um, I guess over time, if Kai-Lan, a lot of people have had to change their names at certain points in time because they felt their name would hold them back in certain ways, and it's really sad because it's a name. At some point in time, your name was new to the world. No matter how basic your name is, at some point in history when someone named you that, everyone else snickered and made fun of it. Like if your name is John, and how many Johns there out there in the world, at some point in history, the first person to have a kid and go like, I'm gonna name them John. Everyone else laughed at that name. That was the silly. Who cares? It's a name. We should not. It's whatever. I could talk too much about that, but yeah, Ni Hao, Kai-Lan, great show. I didn't really watch many episodes. I wasn't really watching Nick Jr. and as I've mentioned in the past, I did have a young brother who, being born in 2004, at the time a lot of the shows he was watching, I was watching as well. So I was watching Lazy Town with him, and the Joe era of Blue's Clues, and then Blue's Room. He was not watching Nick Jr., I think, by the time Ni Hao, Kai-Lan came on, so I was not really watching Nick Jr. with him when this was on, but I'm sure anybody growing up has fond memories of that show, just like anyone would with their preschool shows. 13 years ago, on November 1st, 2008, saw the final episode of Making Fiends on Nicktoons Network, created by Amy Winfrey. Making Fiends was originally a online show that gained in a decent popularity, enough that eventually Nickelodeon came a-calling, or at least the Nicktoons Network. The web show ran for 3 seasons and 24 episodes, made between the times of July 14th, 2003 and April 1st, 2015. Eventually, the internet show caught the eye of someone working in Nickelodeon, and one season of 6 episodes was made for the Nicktoons Network. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but within those 6 episodes brings us 18 segments of Making Fiends, which was basically a show about Vendetta, a green girl. All the characters are all one solid color. It's a very unique looking show. Definitely look it up. I remember watching an episode or two of Making Fiends and enjoying what I watched. But Vendetta, the little green girl, she has the power to make fiends, which are just kind of like anything that's a non-human, like a creature. She unleashes them on her town, and Charlotte, a little blue girl, shows up, and she is just the happiest child to ever exist. And Vendetta, constantly trying to inflict some sort of torment on her, is constantly unsuccessful. And that's essentially the show. I have not watched much of the internet version, but when I was watching Nicktoons Network, I did enjoy when this came on. But now we're going completely. Now, we were like in the 2000s, mid 2000s. There is nothing up until 1992. 29 years ago, on November 1st, 1992, saw the premiere of the Nick Hitlist, which seemed to be a variety show of music. Co-hosted by Shondy Jones and Keenan Scott. Pretty much most of the information I know about that. I looked this up at some other point, I think when it ended, the Nick Hits list. So I'm sure they played, popular songs, music videos that were appropriate to air on Nickelodeon. It sounds right up their alley. Viacom owns MTV. You can make a show right on Nickelodeon still involving music. But now we're going from 90s right into the 80s, because 34 years ago, on November 2nd, 1987, we saw the premiere of Finders Keepers, a game show on Nickelodeon that ran for 195 episodes. Created by Jeffrey Darby, Bonnie Grossberg, Michael Klinghoffer, Neil Krupnick, and Dee LeDuc. The show was presented by Wesley Hure, and when it went from Nickelodeon to syndication, was then presented by Larry Toffler. I have seen a few episodes of Finders Keepers, but it's hard for me to be fully invested as much, because when it comes to Nickelodeon game shows, it's all about that nostalgia, baby. So, but yeah, when this would air on like Nick Gas, I would watch an episode or two of Finders Keepers. It was a lot of, yeah, you can probably tell from the title. It had a lot to do with finding items. The show featured two teams of two children attempting to find hidden objects in different rooms of a house. It was certainly, like, in terms of like set building, it was an impressive looking set as far as game shows of the time are concerned. But we're going even further, because 25 years ago, on November 1st, 1986, saw the premiere of Rated K for Kids by Kids. It was a movie review television program. It was created by Debbie Beese, and its original hosts were Matt Nespel, Lakmini Besbroda, Mark Shanahan, and Rebecca Schwager. There were some other first wave hosts throughout this program: Jennifer Rosa, Kimani Bethia, Eben David. Each week, the show would feature a rotating blend of young teenagers giving their opinions on the latest films, and I guess once in a while home video releases. Now, obviously, because the show is aimed for children, there wasn't going to be many R-rated movies discussed on Rated K for kids by kids. But there actually were some rated R movies that were discussed upon on the show. The show would usually only feature a rated R movie if it was in some way deemed relevant to a young audience. The best example was 1986's Stand By Me, which if you've never seen Stand By Me, it's one of those movies that I think everybody should watch. It's a good story. It's a very, I don't want to get into it really too much here. Definitely just watch it. But it's about, I'll tell you what at least the basic plot is about, but it's about four boys who go out on a trek to discover a dead body. One of them finds out that a dead body is in this specific part of the town, and they just go out on a hike to go see it. That's literally it, but there's way more to it than that, and it's relevant. So at the time when that came out, yeah, they're going to talk about it, because it's like there are movies out there that even though they're rated R, there's good reason to show it to a young audience. When I was in high school, we read the story One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and there's a movie version of it by Stanley Kubrick, which is rated R. And, it certainly, yeah, you would want a parent's permission to watch that, and we actually did. We had permission slips go out to make sure our parents could let us watch the rated R movie, and everybody said yeah, totally fine. Like, we read the book, it was totally appropriate book to read. Well, then the movie is appropriate then. But they also they also featured an episode that discussed the works of Alfred Hitchcock, which I think is pretty cool, and also did an on-set interview with Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel, two very prominent film critics of the time. They were like the two guys that I guess a lot of people really listened to. They had strong opinions on film and weren't afraid to shy away from criticism. And to at least their credit, on one occasion, would go back and almost give positive reflection on a film that they may have been negative on. And that's the kind of stuff I always appreciated. But I never watched a single segment or episode of Rated K for Kids by Kids. I think there's still something to this concept. I think there's now Nickelodeon has always had like kids interview celebrities for movies and whatnot, but if there was a way to still give kind of like what is the Rotten Tomatoes version for kids, like what do kids think are good movies, bad movies, at least the appropriate ones that we would let them review, I think there's something along those lines that could still work. But that is this week in Nickelodeon history. I truly appreciate you making me a part of your week. Thank you for being a part of mine. As always, I am Captain Eric. If you like any of the content I'm putting out, video, audio, anything, and if you find a way that you can support that content by liking it, sharing it, it is as always appreciated on my end. Thank you very much. I'll see you here next week. And please, as always, stay safe.
On the Lord, here what? Nick. On the Lord, here what? Nick. On the Ricky Ticky Low, while living #1 Nickelodeon.